Brent. He's an Asian, specifically a Malaysian student who was staying here in the US. Brent was nervous as he ran towards their house, leaving his slippers outside. He was living in one of the Asian countries, Malaysia, and for them, bringing your slippers inside your house is rude, offensive, and squalid. He turned his attention to the envelope in his hand. He speaks Malaysian and English, so it's easy for him to understand what's written inside. This wasn't just an ordinary envelope, but inside dictates the hope of how he will continue to strive for his studies. Stanford American International School acknowledged his staff's skills in robotics. Though he doesn't have the rich financial state to fit in this school, he tried to apply in one of its limited scholarships this school offers. He did a lot of research about this university, and it may sound for him to be so ambitious to enter this elegant school, but still, he pursued. What's wrong in trying, right? Later that evening, Brent got the courage to tell his mom and dad the good news that he received earlier. He even used his left hand while eating because of the mixed emotions that he found. He wasn't able to finish his words because his mother hugged him and was so proud of their son's achievement. He already packed his things. He was pacing back and forth if there's something he forgot when his mother entered his room. For a moment, she was reminiscing Brent from a tiny cute baby to a grown man that he is right now. As they bid their goodbyes, he promised to be strong and keep himself focused for his dreams. His first day of school came abruptly. As he walked around holding the strap of his bag, he took deep breaths while looking at those massive buildings of the university. His attention was captured to the group of students like him with different races, personalities, and religion. He also wished to find friends like them. On that day, all students were required to gather at the university stadium for an orientation, especially to freshmen like him. They also introduced the different clubs and organizations, and Social Studies Club caught his attention. As he roamed around, he found the front of a stall where his club was located. Like other members, he was also welcomed with warm smiles drawn on their faces. A woman with the chinky eyes and the paper-white skin asked him if he wanted to be part of the club. When he said yes, she handed a paper and pen to Brent for him to write his name on it. She also told Brent that they will have an orientation tomorrow. The next day, Brent spent most of his hours sitting inside different classrooms. Later that afternoon, he went to the next building where his club, the Social Science Club, was located. The new club members were then asked to introduce themselves in front of the crowd. Brent introduced himself and told them he was an Asian, a Malaysian to be exact. There and then, almost all of the faces in the crowd turned sour, yet he didn't even notice. After the introduction, the members proceeded to the club's orientation and had a meeting for their first club activity, where every member were encouraged to share their opinions and ideas, or so he thought. Brent suggested that putting up a social science exhibit would be a nice idea, since it will be their first activity. That will also serve as a prelude to what Social Science Club is. However, instead of accepting his suggestion to be part of the list, he received mockery and harsh words, blaming him of the occurrence of COVID-19 disease because he was an Asian. Brent was indeed shocked and disappointed by how they took the idea of him as an Asian. After a couple of minutes, a woman wearing a knee-length skirt with a long-sleeve top entered the room. It was Miss Wesley Carrolls. Miss Carrolls introduced herself to the students and soon asked if they already had an idea on what activity they are going to create. The president enumerated the suggestions gathered, but Brent noticed that his opinion wasn't included. There was a girl who raised her hand. There, he recognized it was Katie, whom he met the other day. They missed to include one suggestion, Miss Carrolls. It's about putting up a social science exhibit. Miss Carrolls liked the idea and finally agreed to set it as her first activity. However, some of them only hypocritically acceded to it because the teacher was there. Late that afternoon, while he was heading towards the cafeteria, he heard some murmurings and saw rude stares in his direction. Many students even distanced themselves from him and acted as if they were avoiding a piece of trash. It made Brent feel unconscious. Hence, he just decided to go to his next class. The day after tomorrow, Brent thought that the shore would finally go back to its normal state. But he was wrong. When he arrived in the room, his schoolmates suddenly took something out from their bags and pockets. It was a face mask. The Canadian girl eventually raised her voice, asking if someone had alcohol. Brent was suddenly clothed with tremendous unease, for he knew they were pertaining to him. I think we have nothing to do with the exhibit stuff, one guy said with a sarcastic voice. I totally concur. I only hang and spend my time with people like us, and honestly, not with some Asian creature who permeates the virus, added by the lady with brunette hair. Can't you get rid of the virus? Brent finally spoke up. Why are you blaming it on me? You can feel the heat in his face as if he was about to explode. Don't pretend as if you're innocent, you freak, added by another guy who was his age too. A firm voice came from the direction of the door. It was Miss Carrolls. Can you all please get a piece of paper and write any kind of virus that you consider as the most perilous one? Not minding what had been just said by the president. They were astonished by the kind of task that was just given to them. But they did it anyway. Most of them answered coronavirus. Some said Ebola, Marburg, and hantavirus. All your answers are right and considerable. But for me, there is still a virus that exists ever since and still spreading today, Miss Carroll said. Look, what you are doing right now is a form of building and disseminating another kind of virus, and that is hate. Yes, hate is a virus. What you just wrote were viruses where no one dreamed of. But what you're conveying towards Brent is more than that. It's tremendously erroneous. Why? Because it came from you, and you are the prime root of that feeling. You have the choice not to entertain such an atrocious voice within you. But here you are, watering that feeling and letting it spread all over the campus. If you will continue those deeds, you get no difference from those infinitesimal monsters you detest at all. No one dared to say something. Instead, the room was filled with a complete absence of sound. You are under social science organization. You must exemplify the value of equality, equity, and above all, the essence of humanity. I hope I made it clear. They were enlightened in awe by what they just heard. From then on, everything started to change in how they deal with Brent. They develop a positive and democratic racial attitude towards him. As a matter of fact, they wholeheartedly accepted his idea and shared equal opinions on what will be seen in the exhibit. On the day of presenting their first activity, many students went to their exhibit and enjoyed it so well, not because of the design, but of the content it contains. It was seen in their work how they cater different cultural, racial, socioeconomic, and language groups. Their exhibit also implied a message that diversity doesn't mean creating barriers. Rather, these differences can be an opportunity to see the world with a closer lens. That initiative made a colossal impact, not only with their organization, but to the whole campus. Unity, respect, and love prevailed. Moreover, they became more literate, not only with the basic acquisition of knowledge, but also with how they interact and work with their fellow people who have different backgrounds.